Hello and welcome back to Huberman Talks, where science meets motivation to transform your life from the inside out. Today, we're breaking down one of the most misunderstood goals in fitness, how to lose fat without losing muscle. You've probably heard it before. Cut calories, do more cardio, eat clean. But what happens? You lose weight, and with it, you lose strength, energy, and muscle tone. That shredded look you were aiming for, nowhere in sight. Here's the truth. Losing fat while preserving muscle isn't just about diet and exercise. It's about neuroscience. Your brain controls the hormones that decide whether your body burns fat or breaks down muscle. It regulates your stress response, recovery, sleep, and even your motivation to stay consistent. In today's episode, I'll share 3 powerful science-backed strategies to help you tap into your brain's full potential so you can burn fat efficiently while keeping your hard-earned muscle intact. This is where neuroscience meets real-world transformation. Let's dive in. To start, let's talk about strength training, something that is crucial if you want to lose fat without losing muscle. Most people think fat loss is all about cardio and cutting calories, and while those things do play a role, they miss the most important part, muscle preservation. Here's the thing, muscle is incredibly valuable. It's not just for aesthetics, it plays a major role in overall metabolism, posture, and even long-term health. So the goal should be to burn fat while maintaining or even building muscle. The reason strength training is so essential during a fat loss phase is simple. It sends a very strong signal to your body that muscle is important. When you're in a calorie deficit, which is what happens when you're trying to lose fat, your body will naturally try to conserve energy. If you're not careful, this can result in muscle breakdown as the body looks for ways to get that energy. But if you're consistently lifting weights or doing resistance training, you're telling your brain, this muscle is necessary. Don't break it down. Muscle is more metabolically active than fat. This means that even at rest, your muscles burn more calories than fat does. So if you're focusing on losing fat but neglecting strength training, you're missing out on one of the most effective ways to maintain a higher metabolism while shedding fat. You want to make sure that as you're losing fat, you're not losing precious muscle mass that could slow down your metabolism later. Now let's dive deeper into how strength training works for muscle preservation during fat loss. It's not just about lifting weights to build muscle, though that's important too. It's about muscle activation. Every time you perform a strength exercise, you're stimulating your central nervous system, which controls all muscle recruitment. The more you challenge your muscles, the more your body gets used to calling on those muscles for strength and stability. When you're cutting calories and trying to lose fat, the nervous system keeps telling your body to keep those muscles. So, the stronger the muscle activation, the stronger the signal to your body to maintain muscle. But here's where most people go wrong. They switch to cardio and forget about strength training. Sure, cardio can burn a lot of calories in a short amount of time, and it's great for heart health, but cardio alone can actually work against you in a fat loss phase. If you're in a large calorie deficit and doing tons of cardio without resistance training, you run the risk of not just burning fat, but burning muscle as well. It's a classic mistake. You lose weight, but it's not all fat. Much of it could be muscle tissue, which is exactly what you don't want. That's why during a fat loss phase, your priority should be lifting weights or performing some form of resistance training. Aim for moderate to heavy resistance 35 times a week. These sessions don't have to be crazy long or complex. The key is to use compound exercises, movements that engage multiple muscle groups at once, things like squats, deadlifts, bench presses, pull-ups, rows, and lunges. These are foundational exercises that hit a lot of muscle groups and send a strong signal to your nervous system that you need that muscle. When you focus on compound lifts, you also get the added bonus of a higher energy expenditure. While these exercises work multiple muscles at the same time, they also elevate your heart rate, making them effective at burning calories. This gives you the best of both worlds. You're building and preserving muscle while burning fat. In a way, you're getting a little bit of cardio without even having to run on a treadmill for an hour. Let's also talk about progressive overload. This is the principle that guides all strength training. To continue building or preserving muscle, you have to challenge your muscles progressively. This means that over time, you should be increasing the intensity of your workouts by either increasing the weight your liver of sets and reps you're doing or the number of exercises in your routine. This ensures that your muscles are always adapting and growing stronger, even when you're in a calorie deficit. Now, I know a lot of people get intimidated by the thought of lifting heavy weights, thinking that they might bup or get too muscular. But let me be clear, building muscle takes time, dedication, and a combination of factors. Strength training, proper nutrition, recovery, and enough calories. Simply lifting weights will not make you bulk up overnight. In fact, most people would be surprised at how hard it is to actually build muscle, especially while trying to lose fat at the same time. The real goal here isn't to bulk up, it's to maintain or even increase your lean muscle mass while you lost fat. And by maintaining that muscle mass, you're setting yourself up for long-term success. Because once you hit your fat loss goal, you'll be left with a more toned, lean physique and a metabolism that works in your favor. You don't have to be in the gym for hours. 45 minutes to an hour of focused, intentional strength training is more than enough. The key is consistency and intensity. And remember, recovery is just as important. Strength training is effective only if you give your muscles time to recover. Make sure to rest at least 48 hours between working the same muscle group and get plenty of sleep to allow for muscle repair. Another important point is to listen to your body. If you're feeling particularly sore or fatigued, it might be worth backing off for a day and allowing your muscles to fully recover. Overtraining is another trap that can lead to muscle breakdown, and it won't help you reach your goals faster. In fact, it could lead to burnout and potential injury, which is counterproductive to your progress. And finally, remember that strength training doesn't only involve weightlifting. If you're new to exercise or don't have access to a gym, bodyweight exercises can be just as effective. Push-ups, pull-ups, or assisted versions, squats, lunges, and planks are all excellent exercises that can maintain or even increase muscle mass when done properly and consistently. So here's the bottom line. Strength training is essential for fat loss without losing muscle. When you're in a calorie deficit, your body will try to burn whatever it can for energy, including muscle. But if you consistently engage in resistance training, you're sending a strong message to your body that it needs to preserve that muscle. And with compound exercises, progressive overload, and proper recovery, you'll continue to build or at least maintain that muscle, all while burning fat. In essence, it's about working with your body, not against it. And if you embrace strength training as part of your fat loss journey, you'll not only get leaner, but also stronger, healthier, and more resilient. When it comes to losing fat without losing muscle, the second secret is all about nutrition, specifically protein. You might have heard that protein is essential for building muscle, but it's also crucial when you're trying to preserve muscle during a fat loss phase. Let me explain why protein is so important, how much you really need, and how you can use protein strategically to ensure that you're maintaining your muscle mass while shedding fat. First, we need to understand what happens to your body when you're in a calorie deficit. When you're cutting calories to lose fat, your body is essentially running on less fuel. While this fuels fat loss, it can also trigger muscle breakdown if your body doesn't have enough protein to support muscle repair and maintenance. Without the right amount of protein, your body might begin to break down muscle tissue as a source of amino acids to keep things running smoothly. This is where things can go wrong and you lose muscle instead of fat. This is why protein is your best friend when you're trying to preserve muscle while losing fat. Protein provides the amino acids your body needs to repair and rebuild muscle tissue. Every time you lift weights or do resistance training, you're creating tiny tears in your muscle fibers. Protein is what helps repair those tears and rebuild muscle stronger. Without it, your muscles would have a harder time recovering and your body could be at risk of cannibalizing muscle tissue. But it's not just about getting protein. It's about getting enough and getting it consistently. The first thing you need to know is how much protein you should be eating. A general rule of thumb is to aim for 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you should be targeting around 150 grams of protein daily. This is a great starting point, and it can help ensure that your muscles get the fuel they need to stay intact while you lose fat. Now, some of you might be thinking, that sounds like a lot of protein. Can I really eat that much? The answer is yes, and here's why. Protein is one of the most thermogenic macronutrients, meaning it burns more calories during digestion and absorption than fats or carbohydrates. This thermogenic effect is one of the reasons why high-protein diets can be so effective for fat loss. Not only are you providing your body with the necessary building blocks for muscle maintenance, but your body is also working harder to process the protein, which increases your calorie burn. But let's dig a little deeper. It's not just about the total amount of protein you consume. It's also about how you distribute your protein intake throughout the day. Instead of trying to get all your protein in 1 or 2 meals, it's far more effective to spread it out over 3-4 meals. This helps your body stay in a muscle building state through the day and ensures that you're continually feeding your muscles with the building blocks they need to recover and maintain strength. Research shows that meal timing and protein distribution matter when it comes to maximizing muscle retention. A common mistake people make when trying to lose fat is skipping meals or not eating enough protein at certain points during the day. For example, if you only eat a small amount of protein at breakfast and then go through the rest of the day without enough protein, you're not giving your muscles the consistent fuel they need. This can lead to muscle breakdown, especially when your body is in a calorie deficit. The goal should be to have a balanced protein intake at every meal, which not only helps preserve muscle, but also keeps you feeling full and satisfied throughout the day. It's also important to consider the quality of the protein you're eating. Protein comes from both animal and plant sources, but animal-based proteins tend to be more complete. That means means they contain all the essential amino acids that your body cannot produce on its own. Examples of high-quality animal proteins include chicken, turkey, lean beef, fish, eggs, and dairy products. Plant-based proteins like lentils, beans, quinoa, and tofu can also be excellent sources of protein, though you may need to combine different proteins to ensure you're getting all the essential amino acids. However, while protein is essential, you shouldn't be cutting out all other macronutrients such as carbohydrates and fats. Protein plays a crucial role, but fat and carbs also support overall health and performance. Carbohydrates are important because they fuel your workouts, and healthy fats help with hormone production, including testosterone and growth hormone, both of which play key roles in muscle preservation and fat loss. It's about balance. A diet that's too heavily skewed toward protein at the expense of carbs or fats can lead to energy deficits, which might affect your workout performance and recovery. Another key point when it comes to protein and fat loss is protein cycling. This is a strategy where you eat higher amounts of protein on training days and slightly reduce protein intake on rest days. This allows your body to stay in a muscle-preserving state while still allowing for proper recovery. Protein cycling is a smart way to ensure that your body is getting enough protein when it needs it most, like after an intense workout, but also gives your body a little leeway on days when you're not training. Let's also talk about protein timing around workouts. This is where a lot of people get confused. You've probably heard about the anabolic window, the period after your workout when your body is supposedly primed to absorb nutrients, especially protein, to build muscle. While there's some debate on the exact timing of this window, it's still important to consume protein within a few hours after your workout. This helps ensure that your muscles get the fuel they need to start the recovery process as soon as possible. A good rule of thumb is to eat a high-protein meal or snack within 30 minutes to 2 hours after your workout. And while the post-workout meal is important, don't neglect pre-workout protein. Having a moderate amount of protein before your workout ensures that your muscles are well equipped for the work they're about to do. If you haven't had protein in several hours, your body might start breaking down muscle during your workout to fuel itself. Having a small meal with protein about 112 hours before you train can prevent this from happening. Now, some people worry about whether they should supplement their diet with protein shakes or powders to hit their protein goals. While whole food sources of protein are always the best option, protein powders can be a convenient and effective way to supplement your intake, especially if you're struggling to get enough protein from food alone. They're easy to digest and absorb, and they can help you hit your target without needing to prepare a huge meal. Just be mindful of the ingredients in the protein powder you choose. Go for high quality, minimally processed options without unnecessary additives. So what have we learned here? Protein is critical for preserving muscle during fat loss, and the right amount of protein at the right times can make a huge difference in how well you maintain lean muscle mass while losing fat. By aiming for around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, distributing protein evenly throughout the day, and timing your protein intake around workouts, you'll create the optimal environment for muscle preservation. And don't forget to focus on protein quality and consider protein cycling to maximize your fat loss without sacrificing muscle. In the end, it's not just about getting more protein. It's about getting the right amount at the right times and from high quality sources. If you focus on this, you'll be well on your way to maintaining muscle while shedding fat. Now, let's talk about the third secret to losing fat without losing muscle, and that's creating a caloric deficit the right way. We all know that to lose fat, you need to burn more calories than you consume. But here's the thing. Losing fat doesn't mean you need to go into an extreme deficit. In fact, if your calorie deficit is too large, you'll not only lose fat, but you'll also start losing muscle. So it's important to find that sweet spot, a moderate caloric deficit that encourages fat loss while preserving muscle mass. When you're trying to lose fat, the goal should never be to simply lose weight. It's about losing fat and preserving as much lean muscle as possible. The reason is simply muscle is your metabolic engine. It's the tissue that burns calories even when you're not doing anything. The more muscle you have, the more calories your body burns at rest. So preserving muscle while losing fat isn't just about aesthetics. It's about maintaining a healthy metabolism. You don't want to slow your metabolism down by losing muscle. That's why creating a moderate caloric deficit is key to losing fat without losing muscle. The first thing you need to understand is how much of a calorie deficit is actually necessary to lose fat. Most people think that they need to drastically reduce their calorie intake to see results. But when it comes to fat loss, moderation is key. If you cut too many calories too quickly, your body may interpret this as a starvation signal, and as a result, it will start burning muscle tissue for fuel. This is the last thing you want to happen. The sweet spot is typically around a 10-20% below redeficit cal, your maintenance level, meaning you're consuming slightly fewer calories than you're burning, but not enough to cause your body to go into starvation mode. This range is usually sustainable and allows for gradual, steady fat loss while protecting muscle. Let's talk about how to calculate that caloric deficit. The first step is figuring out how many calories you need to maintain your current weight. This is known as your maintenance level. There are various calculators available online to estimate your daily caloric needs based on factors like age, gender, activity level, and body composition. Once you have your maintenance calories, you can subtract 10-20% to create that moderate deficit. For example, if your maintenance level is 500 calories, you're in for somewhere between 1,000 and 250 calories per day. This will encourage your body to use fat as a fuel source without putting muscle at risk. It's important to note that this approach doesn't mean you need to be obsessive about tracking every calorie. While tracking can be helpful for some people, it's more important to focus on the quality of your food choices rather than simply counting calories. A diet that is rich in whole, nutrient-dense foods, such as vegetables, lean proteins, healthy fats, and whole grains, will naturally create a calorie deficit without the need for precise calorie tracking. The key is to make healthier food choices and avoid highly processed foods that are calorie-dense but nutritionally poor. Eating more whole foods will help you feel fuller for longer and make it easier to stick to your caloric target without feeling deprived. Now, let's talk about the role of macronutrients in your caloric deficit. While protein is incredibly important, it's also essential to consider your intake of carbohydrates and fats. Cutting out entire food groups is a common mistake people make when trying to lose fat. But remember, balance is everything. Carbohydrates and fats play important roles in your body's functioning, especially when you're training hard and trying to maintain muscle. Let's start with carbohydrates. Carbs are your body's primary fuel source, especially when you're doing high-intensity exercise like resistance training or cardio. When you cut too many carbs out of your diet, your performance in the gym can suffer, and you'll find it harder to maintain muscle. That's why it's important not go too low on carbs. Even in a caloric deficit, focus on complex carbohydrates like whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, which provide energy for your workouts and help keep you feeling full. Carbs also play a key role in insulin sensitivity, which is crucial for fat loss. When you eat a balanced amount of carbs, your body can better utilize insulin to store nutrients and maintain muscle mass. Then there's fat. Yes, you need fat in your diet, especially healthy fats. Fats are essential for hormone production, including hormones like testosterone and growth hormone, both of which help maintain and build muscle. Fat also helps with the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like D and K, which are important for overall health. You don't need to go overboard on fats, but you should include sources of healthy fats like avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, and fatty fish. A moderate intake of healthy fats helps to balance your hormones and support recovery from exercise, which is key for muscle preservation during a fat loss phase. One thing to keep in mind is that as you get leaner and your body fat decreases, your caloric may decrease as well. This is called adaptive thermogenesis, and it's a natural response from your body as it gets leaner. When this happens, you might notice that you hit a fat loss plateau where you stop losing fat despite being in a calorie deficit. If this happens, it's not a sign to eat less food or drastically increase your cardio. Instead, you may need to adjust your caloric intake or your training program to break through that plateau. One way to do this is by slightly reducing your calories by another 100-200 per day and ensuring that you're staying consistent with your training. Another option is to increase your activity level by incorporating more movement throughout the day, like walking or adding another cardio session to your routine. Another factor to consider is meal frequency. The old adage that you need to eat every 2 to 3 hours to stoke your metabolism is largely a myth. However, there is some evidence to suggest that eating more frequently can help you manage hunger and keep your energy levels stable. For most people, 3-4 meals per day with snacks in between can help keep you feeling satisfied while sticking to your caloric deficit. The goal is to avoid the extremes, either overeating at meals or skipping meals, both of which can disrupt your fat loss progress. When it comes to fat loss, remember that it's not about perfection. It's about creating sustainable habits that allow you to maintain a moderate caloric deficit over time. The goal is to lose fat slowly and steadily while still being able to enjoy the foods you love and not feel constantly deprived. Crash diets or extreme calorie restriction might show quick results, but they're not sustainable, and they often lead to muscle loss, fatigue, and rebound weight gain. Patience is key. Fat loss takes time, and it's important to understand that it's a marathon, not a sprint. The slower and more gradual the fat loss, the more likely you are to preserve muscle and avoid metabolic slowdown. Aim for a loss of 1-2 pounds per week, which is considered a safe and sustainable rate of fat loss. It may not seem like much, but this rate of progress will ensure that you're primarily losing fat and not muscle. So when you're looking to lose fat without losing muscle, the secret is in creating a moderate caloric deficit that encourages fat loss without sacrificing muscle. Aim for a 10-20% deficit. Make sure your protein intake is adequate and focus on eating a balanced diet with healthy fats and complex carbs. Be patient, stay consistent, and focus on making sustainable changes that you can maintain for the long term. With the right approach, you'll be able to achieve lasting fat loss while preserving the muscle you've worked so hard to build. The final piece of the puzzle in the process of losing fat without losing muscle is all about exercise, and more specifically, the importance of resistance training. Now, many people, when they think about fat loss, they immediately think about cardio, running, cycling, swimming, and all that. Cardio certainly has its place, but if you're serious about maintaining muscle while losing fat, there's no substitute for lifting weights or engaging in some form of resistance training. Let me explain who resistance training is the single most effective exercise modality for preserving muscle mass and why it's crucial if you want to avoid looking skinny fat as you lose weight. Resistance training or weightlifting does more than just sculpt your muscles and make you stronger. It's one of the best ways to signal your body to preserve muscle while you're in a calorie deficit. This is key because when you lose fat, the natural tendency of the body is to break down both fat and muscle for energy. However, when you engage in resistance training, you are providing a clear signal to your body that the muscle tissue is still needed. And as a result, your body will prioritize fat loss over muscle loss. One of the key reasons resistance training is so important is because it helps to maintain and even increase muscle mass, especially during a fat loss phase. When you're in a calorie deficit, your body is naturally trying to hold on to energy reserves. If you're not lifting weights, it doesn't have much of a reason to keep your muscles intact. But when you lift, you're telling your body that those muscles are important and need to stay. The more muscle mass you have, the higher your basal metabolic rate BMR becomes, which means your body burns more calories at rest. So the more muscle you preserve, the easier it is to continue losing fat without sacrificing muscle. Think of it this way: muscle is like a furnace. It burns calories all day long, even when you're not working out. And the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn even when you're just sitting around. In contrast, fat doesn't burn many calories at all. This is why preserving muscle is one of the keys to long-term fat loss. You don't want to be a smaller version of yourself that still carries around the same amount of body fat. You want to be leaner, more muscular, and metabolically more efficient. Another reason resistance training is crucial is that it helps with hormonal regulation, especially the production of key hormones like growth hormone and testosterone, both of which play critical roles in muscle preservation and fat loss. When you lift weights, you stimulate your body's growth hormone response, which supports muscle repair and growth even in a calorie deficit. This is particularly important because when you're dieting to lose fat, your body's natural tendency is to reduce these hormones. But consistent weight training can help counteract this, keeping those important hormones at healthy levels. Resistance training also plays a critical role in your overall metabolism. One of the most effective ways to increase your metabolism long-term is to increase your muscle mass. While cardio can help burn calories in the moment, it doesn't do much to increase your resting metabolic rate. On the other hand, weightlifting increases muscle mass, which in turn keeps your metabolism elevated even at rest. This is what we call the afterburn effect, or EPOC, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. After an intense weightlifting session, your body continues to burn calories at an elevated rate for hours, even after you finish working out. This means that the calorie burn continues long after your workout ends, helping you burn fat even when you're not actively exercising. Now, when we talk about resistance training, it's important to remember that it doesn't just mean lifting heavy weights at the gym. Resistance training can take many forms, and it doesn't necessarily require a barbell or dumbbells. Bodyweight exercises like push-ups, pull-ups, squats, lunges, and planks can be incredibly effective, especially if you're just starting out or you don't have access to equipment. The key is to create a challenge for your muscles that forces them to adapt, grow, and get stronger. As you progress, you can increase the difficulty by adding weight, increasing the number of sets or reps, or adjusting the tempo of your movements. When it comes to the frequency of resistance training, most people will benefit from lifting weights at least 3 times per week. However, the more frequently you can train, the better, as long as you're not overtraining and risking injury. If you can manage to fit in 45 sessions of weightlifting each week, you'll likely see faster results, but it's important to listen to your body and allow for proper recovery. A well-structured training plan should involve a balance between work and rest, ensuring that you're giving your muscles the time they need to recover and rebuild. In terms of what type of resistance exercises are most beneficial for fat loss, compound movements should be your focus. Compound exercises like squats, deadlifts, bench presses, rows, and overhead presses target multiple muscle groups at once, which not only builds muscle but also burns a significant amount of calories during the workout. These exercises require more energy and recruit more muscle fibers than isolation exercises like bicep curls or leg extensions, so they are more effective for both muscle building and fat loss. In addition to resistance training, it's important to integrate some form of cardiovascular exercise into your routine, especially for heart health and overall fat loss. However, when it comes to preserving muscle while losing fat, the key is to strike the right balance. Too much cardio, especially high-intensity cardio or long-duration sessions, can lead to muscle loss. This is because extended periods of cardio can trigger catabolic processes where the body starts breaking down muscle tissue to use as fuel. This is why combining short bursts of high-intensity interval training, HIIT, with your resistance training is often the most effective approach. HIIT allows you to get the fat-burning benefits of cardio without sacrificing muscle mass. Another point to consider is the role of recovery in your fat loss journey. Recovery is where the magic happens. It's during rest and recovery that your muscles rebuild and grow stronger. Without adequate rest, your muscles don't have the chance to repair. And that's when you risk overtraining and injury. Your muscles don't grow during the workout. They grow during the recovery phase. That's why getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, and giving your muscles time to rest between workouts is just as important as the workouts themselves. Aim for 79 hours of sleep per night. Make sure you're taking at least 48 hours of rest between intense weightlifting sessions targeting the same muscle groups. As for muscle building recovery strategies, nutrition plays a big role. After resistance training, your body needs both protein to repair muscles and carbohydrates to replenish glycogen stores. A post-workout meal or snack that includes both protein and carbs will help optimize recovery. This doesn't mean you need to stuff your face immediately after your workout, but consuming a balanced meal within 30 to 60 minutes of finishing your workout will support muscle repair and maximize fat loss. Finally, one more thing to consider when doing resistance training is the importance of progressive overload. This is the concept of gradually increasing intensity of your workouts over time, whether that's by lifting heavier weights, doing more reps, or increasing the time under tension. Progressive overload ensures that your body continues to adapt to the stress you put on it, which is essential for building muscle and increasing strength. If you continually do the same exercises with the same weight, your progress will plateau. So aim to gradually increase the difficulty of your workouts, pushing your body to become stronger and more resilient. To summarize, resistance training is absolutely critical if you want to lose fat without losing muscle. It signals your body to preserve muscle mass while burning fat, increases metabolism, improves hormonal balance, and helps you maintain a lean, toned physique. Focus on compound movements, aim for 3 to 5 sessions per week, and complement your workouts with sufficient recovery and proper nutrition. When combined with a moderate caloric deficit and sufficient protein intake, resistance training will not only help you shed fat, but will also help you build and preserve the muscle that keeps you strong, metabolically efficient, and healthy.